I'd like to begin. And we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Before we have Jan speak to us about Hawaii's favorite orchid, the honohono orchid, Demdrobium anosmum. But a couple of things that you all need to know. Oh, let's see, we have someone to admit. We are indeed having an orchid sale at the end of this month, July 30th and 31st. Everything is going really, really well in terms of the planning. It looks like for sure it's going to happen. Of course, one of the problems one of the things is that we are still, even though things are getting better, we're still in the COVID crisis. And so there's going to be some rules in effect at this sale. I hope all of you will come, but it's going to be a social distancing sale, and at this time anyway, we are limited to 100 people on the floor of the stadium. And there's probably, with all of the vendors, there's probably going to be about 25 people or so operating their booths. We have a lot of great orchids that are going to be coming from like 10 different nurseries are going to be participating. So it's going to be a nice chance to pick up some great new plants. But with only 75 people basically allowed in at a time, my suggestion is to get there as early as you can so that you can get first pick of the plants. Now, in order to allow time for the vendors to get set up, I believe on Friday, the stadium will open for sales at 11:30. So there will probably be a line since we're only allowed 100 people total, including vendors on the floor at any given time. So at any rate, tell the rest of your orchid friends. There's already banners up in Hilo, and there's flyers that are also out and about as well. And we can also use some help. We need some volunteers because, well, for various things. And one thing is that we have to control the flow of people. So there'll be someone at the entrance and someone at the exit, just like at the supermarket, making sure that we don't overstep our limits in terms of people on the floor at any given time. That, and we're going to have a table, of course, hopefully getting new members for the society. We'd love to have your help at these tables. We're also going to be selling bark and bark mixes, and we will also have our judges. The Hilo judges are actually providing some very, very, very nice plants in order to defray the cost of award photography. So there will be some really really wonderful plants there that will benefit the society. So we really could use a few more volunteers. So if you are willing to come on Friday or Saturday, it would be great if you could contact Carl Mendonça. Larry, do you want to unmute yourself and maybe give a little more explicit instructions about how, what we need and how to get on our list?
Sure. So hopefully most of you got the newsletter last Saturday. And in the newsletter, I had the sign up information for people who wanted to volunteer. So with contact information for Carl, who is running the whole sale, basically, who's organizing the whole thing, and for Ellen Train, who's running the membership, which will be at the Gila Orchid Society table. And so if you want to volunteer, you can call or email either of those two people. Their email addresses and phone numbers are in that newsletter.
Okay, so consult the newsletter for information about helping us volunteering at the show. We really could use a few more, and I think it's going to be a terrific event. Dana, I see your hand.
Hi, I was just wondering if we're going to be doing any advertising on the radio or in the newspaper, or no?
I believe we are. K100 has offered to interview Carl and maybe Larry or a couple others. So I need to follow up on that, but we still have a little bit of time before I think it should actually happen. And I also believe that Carl has contacted another radio source as well. It's too bad he's not here because it'd be nice to get an update on that. But we'll find out soon enough. And anyway, we do need additional help. Charles, can you fly in, please, and help us out? Okay, I know your arms get tired, but it would be really lovely to have you.
At my height, I only count as half of a person.
Oh, please. You make up for it in girth.
Yeah. Yep. There I count as two.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. So let's
Tom,
see.
if I can just add to
Please.
Answering Dana's question. So at the last meeting that we had of people planning the sale, the plan was that we would do advertising on the radio. We were not going to do advertising in the newspaper because that's quite expensive. The advertising on the radio is much more reasonable, and we think it reaches a wider audience.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so that's the big news for our members at this point. And please sign up if you have some availability on Friday the 30th and Saturday the 31st. Okay, so I think we might as well. We should get on to our fabulous and illustrious speaker. Jan Takamiya is one of the key people. She's like kind of the backbone of the societies on Oahu, and is very much involved in the Kunia Orchid Society, but I see her name popping up all the time for various Oahu events, orchid events. And let me just say that when I first came to Hawaii, Jan was incredibly kind to me, inviting me to come to the Kunia show and give a talk there. It was really a very nice welcome to Hawaii, and that particular show apparently hit the blooming of honohono orchids right at their peak. What was that, 3 years ago, Jan, or is that was that 2 years ago? Must have been 3 years ago. Well, in any case, oh, go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
and it doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes the honos don't hit perfectly for that particular show. So I got an amazing treat. There were so many beautiful honos there. I think maybe they grow maybe just a little better on Oahu than they do here on the Big Island, but we can still grow them here really well. But there were just curtains of beautiful honos, many different varieties, color forms, and I was so impressed. And then I found out that more than half of the plants that were being exhibited belonged to Jan Takamiya. She was the grower. So I decided that I better become really good friends with her, and because she's, I don't know, she's just really a treasure in terms of her skill and her, her dedication really to the orchids. She's now entered the judging program, and she's probably the only student judge that we've never had to like, I don't know, bother with like doing a task. She's very organized. She gets everything done and done well, and that's just who Jan is. So we're very lucky to have her today. And I'll also point out, I mean, Jan is very illustrious in and of herself, but Jan is also married to Lance Takamiya, who many of you may know from his beautiful slack key guitar songs and albums. And so we have featured links to some of his songs in our newsletter in the past. Anyway, it's what a wonderful life. And so I'm very delighted to call Jan a friend, and super excited to have her give us all of her growing secrets for honohonos today. And she's very modest, so I just wanted everyone to realize exactly who it is that we have today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jan. Teach us a thing or two or three about growing honohonos.
Wow, that was a really nice introduction. Thank you so much, Tom. It was a really exciting time in Kuniya to have you come and talk with us. You were coming straight from the Smithsonian, and a world-renowned speaker was just something that Kuniya needed to put us on the map. And you were so gracious, and you even showed up for judging that night, which was really cool because everybody got to meet you. And thank you for being so friendly and always open and really supportive of the Orchid Societies. Thank you so much.
You're too kind, but you're very welcome.
I'm gonna try to share my screen. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, is that good? I'm gonna be I'm trying this large screen monitor because my eyes are going. And I'm using a laptop, so it's going to look like I'm kind of gazing off into space. It's because the monitor is a little bit bigger. It was a lot bigger than my laptop. So pardon me for not looking into the camera, or it seems like I'm gazing off somewhere. It's because of my computer setup. Okay, so the alluring scent and showy blooms of Hono are what got me interested in orchids, and learning about them has helped me in many ways. Through the years, I've met really great growers, really nice people, and developed a lot of orchid friendships. And I'm really happy to share a few culture tips that I learned from others, as well as some that I developed on my own. And I hope that this talk will be able to support your society's project for growing the honos from shogun orchids. Tom has asked me to show a few varieties of honos as well. So after a little history, I'll show some species, varieties, and then a few hybrid honos before we get into the culture. During the pandemic, I reached out to Glenn Barfield and Mel Walkie, and they have been mentoring me with photography tips. And the pandemic allowed me some time to practice. So most of the photos in the presentation are mine from the past 2 growing seasons, and the others are labeled with photo credits. The term honohono, or hono for short, is used collectively to refer to pendant spring to summer blooming dendrobiums. My understanding is that the term honohono is accepted in pocket regions nationally and internationally, just as the Hawaiian term keiki has been assimilated when describing beginning growth orchids, due to Hawaii's early presence in the 50s and 60s as the orchid capital of the world. This grassy weed is honohono kukui. The pendant dendrobium orchids were referred to as honohono because their vegetative growth is similar to the alternating leaf sheaths and the rambling growth habit of this grass. Honohono dendrobiums originate from mountain forests in Southeast Asia, and there are several theories on how they were introduced to Hawaii. Some say a sea captain from Japan stopped in the Philippines and brought slips of plants to Hawaii. Others believe that the immigrants themselves brought them from China and the Philippines as they arrived to work the cane fields in Hawaii. The term Okika honohono is defined in the Hawaiian dictionary as Demdrobium anosmum. Anosmum is the accepted Q term for one of the major species of hono. It was once referred to as superbum and was first registered in 1845. That's 175 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. You'll come across many names for this and other orchid species, reflective of Sanders and Q, and as well as taxonomic changes. Some hybrids have synonymous names as well for the same cross. It can get really confusing. I actually had to create a spreadsheet for myself just to wrap my head around it all. These are just a few varieties of anosmum. People have been line breeding these dens, and they may look very different from the wild collected ones. The chimera one on this bottom left is from a clonal mutation from a cultivated variety of anosmum from a cross made by Benny Zambrano. This middle one, variety stripe, is a favorite of hybridizers for its white stripe down the middle of the sepal petals and lip. Yamato White was bred with a polyploid variety from Dr. Sagawa of the University of Hawaii. You can see the improvement in flower form and substance in this photo. In general, anosmum are one of the first of the honos to bloom, typically in March, and have a tendency to bloom toward the tip of the long canes. They have a sweet, really distinct and beautiful scent. The scent may vary depending on the region it was collected from. Demdrobium parishii is another major species of hono and is synonymous with Rhodopterygium. It has many color forms as well. There's your Trilobella one, Matthias. They're typically later blooming as compared to anosmum, usually from May through June or early July. They have thick, shorter canes and are also very sweetly scented. The flowers are more compact and bloom throughout the length of the cane as compared to anosmum. These species generally bloom April to May between the bloom times of the anosmum and parishii. They are delicately scented and are much smaller in size as compared to anosmum. The growth is more rambling, especially on this Lorgizii, or the canes may be thinner, like this ophyllum. Try to keep a visual picture of this one, this ophyllum grown by Lloyd Isaki. It will be a good reference when we get to the hybrids. There are many more species, but these were the popular ones used to create some of the hybrids that we will cover next. Nestor is a classic primary hybrid, registered in 1892 by Wynne. It has synonymous parents as Demdrobium Little Sweet Scent, which was registered in 2000. Little Sweet Scent comes in many color forms, and recently we can see some really nice semi-alba varieties. When you cross Nestor back to anosmum, you get Super Nestor, and this fantastic white bloom here is grown upright in this photo. It was a really special plant grown by Richard Takafuji from Orchid Center. These are some hybrids created by David Neifert of Hanalei Orchids on Kauai. His family owns Olamana Orchid Nursery on Oahu, and they specialize in Demdrobiums. David named Neifert's Quest, this one on the left, because of his quest to create a semi-alba form of hono. Neifert's Quest may have a sparse bloom in the fall and a bigger bloom in the spring. It took David several years, but you can see that he was successful. These hybrids are generally a little later blooming around May. Neifert's Super Scent is noticeably stronger scented, and for me, that's a really big plus. These primary hybrids are all from crosses made with ophyllum, that long lavender one from that Lloyd Isaki grew. Remember that these species, hold on, I'm a little bit mixed up here. Okay, these orchids, these primary hybrids are not strongly scented. You need to bring them indoors to notice the scent, but the collective blooms of these smaller flowers are really showy. Jan Orenstein, this one on the left, is very long caned and it's a vigorous grower. You should try to Google Jan Orenstein if you can and look at the variety. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. These canes can easily get over 5 feet. There are different varieties, some are darker than others. Bohemian Rhapsody is another vigorous primary hybrid. This one is mounted on a redwood jealousy. It's almost 10 years old. I grew it from one pot, and each year I stick the aerial shoots back into the mount. Before we get into culture, I think it's helpful to know the growth cycle since it drives the culture, especially the timing of the culture. During the spring to summer bloom, or shortly after, keiki may emerge from the pot next to the cane that's in bloom. These are what I refer to as pot keiki. They will be the next year's bloom and typically grow longer than this year's cane. When the pot keiki are 2 to 3 inches long, and you can see that the roots have emerged, I cut the spent cane. Until the roots emerge, the keiki gets its nutrition from the cane, so be careful not to cut too early. The cane keiki will get progressively longer each year. Each plant goes through a 9-month growing cycle between March and November. The honos are from Southeast Asia, and in their summer, there is less rain. And unfortunately, their summer coincides with Hawaii's winter when it rains a lot, especially in Hilo. Try to control the water during dormancy. We'll talk about this more later. After dormancy, the buds emerge and the bloom cycle starts all over. Okay, your culture is going to be driven by your goals. I love the look of a full pot with forward-facing blooms that cover the length of straight canes. This look was achieved by planting many cuttings of the same plant in one pot. This is the look that I try to achieve with my honos. Growing space is a concern for me, and it impacts my culture style. So I'd rather have one large specimen than many little pots hanging all over the place. So that's kind of pushes me in this direction as well. You see on the top here of this picture are the pot keiki emerging. This ensures the length and growth for next year's bloom. If winning awards is your goal, the proper way in terms of HOS judging is to grow one plant per pot. A single to a few canes that emerge from one plant are very elegant and beautiful. So you can see how your goals will impact how you grow your orchids. I'll be going through these listed culture factors in more detail. Typically, keiki emerge where there were no flowers. I used to sprout my cut canes on gravel, like this here, like the two pictures on the left. But more often than not, the roots would be way too long by the time I get to plant them. Calvin Kumano is a vendor in Waianae, and he showed us how he propagates his canes by cutting them into 2 to 3 inch pieces and lining them up over bark in shallow trays. Olomana orchids used to propagate canes this way as well. They used to cut 2 nodes per section. So these photos on the right, the one in the green frame, are Calvin's. And I've tried this one in the purple box. I cut the canes in and plant them in a 4-inch square pot. The roots go into the media and are much easier to transplant later. I put a really thick layer of styrofoam on the bottom since the canes need that wet dry cycle. And it also seems to grow best when the canes are even with the edge of the pot. They really need to dry out or they rot. I love to visit nurseries and other growers to get culture tips and ideas. My culture style is an eclectic mix from many growers. The picture with the purple labels are taken from Calvin Kumano's nursery. As a vendor, his goal is to sell plants, so that necessitates individual potting. Calvin grows his keikis on benches. The pink labels, ones on the left, are my plant. Keiki from the same cane are growing in one pot. I try to align them to face one way, which makes a big difference when the plants mature and when you stage the bloom. Keiki seem to do best in 65 to 70% shade. They can't take as much sun as mature plants. I grow my mature plants under 50% shade cloth. The longer the day length, the better, because the sun really helps the plant to grow and is the key to a full bloom. Light direction is very important for an organized growth and bloom. Placing the plants against a wall or a dark shade cloth with light from one direction will promote forward blooming flowers. You might get twisting of canes and flowers if the sun is coming from all directions. The nighttime chill during our winter seems to push flower production, and Demdrobiums in general seem to like the diurnal temperature variations of around 10 to 20 degrees. Honos grow in the branches of trees in their native habitat. They really like breeze, and my hanging plants actually seem to do significantly better than the ones I leave on the bench. Because I water every day, airflow is needed to dry the plants out. Without this breeze, or if plants are overcrowded, you might notice brown spots on the leaves. These spots usually clear up once you correct these conditions. In rainy hilo, I think hanging may be an important culture consideration and a good way to accommodate for your frequent rains. It rains 23 out of 30 days during monsoon season in the Philippines, between July and October. That's close to every day. During the growth season, I water my keiki and mature plants nearly every morning and allow them to dry out during the day. Scott Mitamura, who is a horticulturalist that works at Foster Gardens, taught us that water is a mechanical insecticide. So I give my honos a bath every day. Envision shooting the bugs off with the water. I water the front, the back, from the top and from the bottom. My plants are grown in bark. You need to alter the frequency of watering depending on your media and weather conditions. I really love to water and have had good results growing in just straight bark. I like to grow them hard since they seem to go dormant easier. The daily watering also helps me to observe them frequently too. Now I'm exploring use of bark and coarse perlite, mainly to stretch my media, since bark is so hard to find and really expensive on Oahu. Through the years, I'm realizing that the availability of garden products will also impact your culture style. Fertilizers and pot sizes get discontinued and certain items become scarce or wildly expensive, and it throws off your routine. Some summers are really hot, and depending where you live, different bark additives need to be considered. Calvin plants in sphagnum, and he waters 3 times a week. His plants are out in Waianae where it's really hot and similar to the dry conditions you have in Kona. If you mount your honos, you probably need to water more often depending on where you live. And this might be a good consideration for rainy hilo too. My opinion is you should select the culture style that best fits you as well as your environment. I started to collect rainwater since last winter, and this year was the first bloom season that I've used rainwater, and I'm observing the blooms seem larger and they seem to have lasted a little longer this year. Because I hang my plants, a long-handled water wand is very helpful to reach my hanging plants. The middle picture is what I use for fertilizers and oils or chemicals. The siphon gun is my new toy. It's a really great, it's a great way to pump rainwater up high. I use the rinse mode, so it's a gentle spray. It's a little noisy, but it's really handy. This model sucks the rainwater from a barrel or from the spigot. And I like that it's battery operated, so nothing gets tangled with the water hose. Honos are very heavy feeders during the grow season. In the summer, I give a full dose of liquid fertilizer weekly to match the long day length. I use reduced amounts of fertilizer in spring and fall. I try to choose a balanced fertilizer for everything because I read that micronutrients and sun are important for the uptake of nutrients. I don't know enough of what micronutrients are needed or in the amounts needed. So I just look for something balanced with micronutrients already in it, whether it's liquid or granular fertilizers. At the beginning of the grow season, right after bloom, I check to see if repotting is necessary, and I supplement each pot with granular fertilizer and dolomite. I also supplement my liquid fertilizer with plant growth enhancer, and this year I tried EM1. Mainly, I don't think I really need it, but I'm a little obsessive with my honos, so I started adding these supplements. I use high phosphorus fertilizer in the fall, just before dormancy, and then again during bud development after dormancy, although some growers don't believe that this is necessary. So high phosphorus fertilizer is the one with the high middle number. I stop all fertilizing in the winter, and I try to be careful to count backwards from December when I apply my granular fertilizers. So for example, if it's a 90-day granular release, your last application would be September 1st. This might be a little obsessive, but I feel like I need all the help I can get to obtain my goal of a full bloom. In the Philippines, rain decreases to 8 days a month in December. And that comes out to be about once every 3 to 4 days. Okay, so remember, it's their summer. During dormancy, the leaves turn yellow and drop off, and a thin whitish sheath develops around the canes as they harden. I observe that the best and fullest blooms happen when my honos go through dormancy. If the leaves stay on, the blooms tend to be more sparse and the flowers are hidden. If it's too dry, the canes become thin and hard and woody, especially at the top, and they don't typically bloom in this area. You need to check your pots because just because it's raining outside doesn't mean any of it is getting inside your pots. Anosmum will typically have bare canes at the top. This is a common trait for this species, but you can shorten the bare area by monitoring the water. I end my dormancy when the buds fully emerge. Once the buds are distinguishable and hopefully on every node, I resume daily watering and fertilize weekly for the pot keiki and for overall plant health. I alternate fertilizers with Bloom Booster, the high phosphorus fertilizer, to support the flowers. It takes about a month to flower once the buds emerge like this here on the right. Be sure to stop the Bloom Booster once blooms open, or the flowers will prematurely wilt and age. The bloom should last at least 3 weeks in a cool, dry area. I try to keep my flowers dry. Wet blooms will melt the flowers from botrytis. So especially in Hilo, consider bringing them under an eave or a patio, or maybe even bring them indoors. Hanging pots and baskets at an angle creates a really nice cascading platform for the canes. This supports the canes no matter how long they are. And it also keeps the flowers dry when you water them. If the pots are level, the weight of the cane tends to crack at the edge of the pot, especially if your canes are really long. Common Owl taught us this 3-prong hanging style. So what this is if you open up the prongs like a Mercedes sign, this wire here on the open end of the hook would be the one that you would cut 1 inch shorter. And just by doing that creates a really nice angle for the pot. Same for the baskets, just cut these 2 a little bit shorter than the 2 on the bottom. When I visit nurseries and other growers, I'm always impressed by their very clean and spacious, really neat growing areas. I'm not a neat person. I'm naturally messy, but I try to emulate them, and I think sanitation is an important consideration in growing your honos or all orchids. I use snail and slug bait every 2 weeks. Somehow, even though the pots are hanging, I find 1 or 2 snails up there. Using insecticides crosses many comfort zones, so it's really up to you. My go-to treatment is horticultural oil. I use 2 2 tablespoons per gallon and apply it in the cool evening or very early morning when there's a light breeze. They need to reduce the chance for burning. The hono leaves are forgiving. They're going to fall off anyway. So it's okay, even if you do burn them. I make it a point to treat before dormancy and again when the buds appear, because to me, this is the critical period when thrips and other bugs can affect plant and bud health. So these are some of the amendments that I use. On Oahu, we have problem with bulbils. These are birds that snip off flower spikes. I didn't realize that it's only an Oahu problem. So this yard sentinel may not apply to you, but Glenn did mention that he had cardinal problems that they snip his spikes too. This yard sentinel is not appropriate if you have pets or young people in your house with sensitive hearing. But I think it works really well to repel rodents and birds that mess up your orchids. If you decide to try it, I recommend getting the plug-in style. The solar style only lasts about a year, even if you replace the batteries. It's just not long-lasting at all. And it costs about $30 online. Hanging some kind of weight at the tip of the cane may help to get your canes to grow straight. I move the weights about every 1.5 to 2 weeks. I have to move them more frequently when it rains. If the cane is really crooked, like this one in the middle, even weights won't help. So before dormancy, I wrap bonsai wire around the cane, like a candy cane stripe, and gently straighten it. And it really helps to promote a showy bloom. Be careful not to use copper wire, since copper is contraindicated for Demdrobiums. You'll get premature leaf drop, not due to dormancy. Coated copper or coated aluminum works really good. After the cane has hardened and way before the buds emerge, I remove the wire. And be careful because the canes get brittle, especially during its transition to the dormancy period. A really smart man wrote this in his column in Orchids magazine. And I think it's very, very true. I really enjoy Tom's columns. I look for it. That's the first thing that I read when I get my Orchids magazine. It's like my orchid church. I also find that these 3 things here, constant observation, responding to problems, and respecting the science, all help to contribute to this consistency. Okay, so I hope this talk will help to support your society project of growing and blooming your honos. It'll be really interesting to see how the different culture styles affect the outcome. I'm done.
Oh my God, Jan, that was brilliant. Really, really. I mean, you covered every aspect of how you are so successful with your plants, and I couldn't be more delighted with that presentation. Really, you should do this on a national basis. You really need to show everyone in the world how this is done. So anyway, I think we should open up to questions. Let me go to the gallery view. I see Matthias with his blue hand up. Did you stick your hand in a tub of ice? Anyway, you need to unmute yourself. Please ask your question.
Yes, I wanted to find out, first of all, really great talk. So thank you for doing that for our society. I really appreciate that. My question is, we have the issue here on the Big Island that most plants that we have here are virused. And I was wondering if your plants, if you have a stock that is virus free.
I don't know. Actually, no. From what they tell me, almost all of the chimera types are all virus. And so, you know, we are really careful with flaming our torches and flaming our cutters and all of that. Tom, maybe you can, I was under the impression that selfing them, taking them through seed pod clears the virus. So is that true? I mean, I'm hearing that
Seed grown plants should be virus free.
yeah.
One of the problems though is that if you take the pollen from a virus plant and put it on a non-virus plant, you can transfer virus to your mother plant.
Oh, God.
So you have to be a little bit careful with that. But selfing a plant, it shouldn't matter. But if you're trying to get a certain result from crossing, I will say this. I think it's the sources that you showed on Oahu make me really want to go and take a trip and get some nice fresh stock to bring to the Big Island, plus to get all of the line breeding, and it looks like there's fantastic things going on there. So, but yeah, virus is always going to be an issue for plants that are propagated from cuttings, because we tend to just use our clippers and not necessarily flame them as we should in between. So
Yep.
Important question.
Yeah, Matthias, I'm pretty sure I have virus in my collection, but they seem to bloom. They still seem to bloom. Okay. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's ways to test, right, for the virus, but I haven't gone that far.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the question. You know, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to grow them that much, or not so much just to have them in my nursery, but the point when the leaves fall, you know, then they go all over. And so if the wind blows the leaves into my other specimen plants, then I'm fearful that it will transmit. So that's why I have down tremendously on growing them. Anyways,
Yes.
that was my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see Parker with his hand up.
I have a question. You mentioned that cardinals eat the blooms off of those. What is because we have cardinals here, and I never noticed them eating the orchids, but I don't touch them all. So you got me worried now when you said the cardinals were eating orchids.
Glenn, do you want to say something about what you observed with your cardinals? Glenn observed specific behaviors.
Yeah, I would be happy to speak to that issue. I've lost thousands of dollars of spikes of plants in bud and spike to cardinals. And it seems like that in my nursery, I live up in Glenwood, and we have a constant cardinal population. They're lovely to listen to, but they would come in, and just as the spikes were long, like 2 feet long, and before they produced any buds or branches, the cardinals would come in and bust the tips, like the last 2 inches off of the spikes, and then sit there and unravel that tip. And I'd find this just pile of paper thin tissue sitting on the ground. So, but they only did that to spikes that were dark. So the dark reddish purple spikes, they would do it. The green spikes sitting right next to them, they never touched those.
What do you do? Nothing?
Oh, well, I've tried a bunch of stuff. And the only thing that actually worked was I took a Victor rat trap, and where you'd normally put the cheese, I put the cap off of a prescription cap I'm trying to think of the right, I don't know the right word for it, but anyway, it's a
I know
small
what you're
pit. Yeah, I would drill a couple of holes in it so it wouldn't collect water. And then I would glue that to the tab where you'd normally put the peanut butter or cheese, and then fill it with parrot food. And as soon as I put those out, maybe a half a dozen of them in a certain area where I have the dark colored spikes, and I would kill off that population of cardinals. But then like 6 weeks later, a new population would show up and I'd have to start all over again.
Matthias. Oh, sorry.
That's all right, I'm through. I'll mute.
Go ahead, Matthias.
You know what works for me? It's with the birds. The best thing is to go to Ace Hardware or to Home Depot. They have the big L's with the spinning head. So the head sits on a wire, and the wind or anything will make it turn. So that's the only one that works for the birds. I have never had any bird problems whatsoever. I mean, those things work like a charm. If you buy the ones where the head is mounted on the body and it doesn't move, they don't do anything. But the one with the spinning head will work incredibly well. So they're like $18, $19 or something maximum. You can also buy them online. They are worth every cent.
I will say that's great advice, Matthias. I often have wondered about all those owls in your nursery, and now I understand. But I will say that that birds are, you don't necessarily notice what they're doing. I know for a fact that I've come into our growing area here and found things suspiciously missing. Okay, seedlings that have been plucked out, or plants that I'm trying to root that have been removed, and you're not necessarily gonna catch them in the act. But these birds are a menace in terms of you're trying to grow things. For those of you that feel a little questionable about driving birds out of your garden, keep in mind that none of the birds that we're referring to that are doing all this damage are native birds. These are all invaders. And so I always try to keep that in mind when I'm trying to drive birds out. And I've not been real successful. In fact, if Charles were to come home today, he would see an unfortunate pile of stuff underneath one of the light fixtures on the deck where a couple of mynas have gotten out of hand. So these birds are, as I said, can be a problem. Jan, I don't know anything about that device that you were talking about. What does it do? Is it like a sonic thing that drives them off?
Yeah, it's a sonar. It's actually kind of cool. It's there's different levels of sonar. There's a dial, so it can get rid of skunks and raccoons and deer, and all the way at the end, it can get rid of the birds. So
you have skunks and raccoons on Oahu?
It works really good for the squirrels and raccoons.
But it will work with birds too.
It does. For me, it does. For a while, I was finding some cardinals coming in to my growing area, and sure enough, when I checked, my setting was not right. You can set it to intermittent or on all day or on with movement. It's kind of a cool thing. We got it first because of cats. The cats would kind of poop in our yard. They love to poop all over our gravel. And it started to get really kind of gross. So we looked into it, and it worked for the cats. And I didn't realize when I was reading the instruction, it works for birds too. So we bought a couple more, and it's been good.
I think I'm going to invest in a couple of those.
Yeah,
Great suggestion.
your cockatiels, be careful. You don't want.
Oh, it would bother my cockatoo. You're right. Oh boy.
Have to, depending where you place it, you know, if your cockatiels are indoor, you need to be careful. And even
Okay.
like my kids, they're younger. When they come home, they're like, "Mom, can you turn off that thing?" Like me and Lance, we don't hear it anymore.
Right. There's certain frequencies only teenagers and younger can hear, right? And then the rest of us, we can't hear it.
Yeah, gotta be careful.
God, I feel old now. Any other questions? Okay. Parker has another.
What's the name of that device and where do you get it? The ultrasound thing, the sonic thing.
Called Yard Sentinel, and I ordered it off of Amazon.
Yard Sentinel.
About 30, you know, when I first bought it, it was only like 20 something dollars, and it's slowly been going up and up.
What does it do
Yard
to
Sentinel.
dogs? Does it do anything to dogs?
Yes, they're not good for dogs. Not good for dogs or cats.
What does it do to them?
You know, my son's dog doesn't seem fazed by it. But you know, they can hear all that kind of stuff, so you have to be, you know, be careful.
So, Jan, I have loads of questions. Unfortunately, sorry, everyone. I'm just wondering, you know, now many of us like to plant our orchids in our trees here on the Big Island, and most plants take really, really well to that kind of culture. But unfortunately, our rainy season is opposite of you know what it should be in order for you know the dormant period that honos really need to bloom optimally. So would you say it's just better to grow these in a basket? I love the tilt that you're recommending, because I have that problem too. When I get a heavy cane, it'll break if the pot is level. So this would allow it to, you know, to cascade in a natural way and a beautiful presentation. But actually planting them in trees here, I do see them around Hilo in bloom, but not fully clothed with flowers like your plants are. So if we want that really excellent blooming, we need to keep it really dry in the winter months, starting in November, right?
Well, I usually start my dormancy in December. So the article that I read and then referenced Thanksgiving. So Scott wrote an article way back when. He used to write an article in the Star Bulletin Advertiser that said, when we eat on Thanksgiving is when our orchids stop eating. So it's kind of a good way to remember that.
Oh, that sounds so cruel.
So in December, just kind of stop it. But you know, mounting them in the tree, to me, that's the most beautiful way to display the orchids. Whether they're in full bloom or not, it's just so nice. If you have a tree, go for it, I would say. And then,
Well,
you know, honos they're so plentiful. You can grow both on the tree and in the basket. And
I
that's
see.
what the whole thing is. You want to try out different cultures, right? Culture styles. Isn't that what the goal for your society project is?
Well, we want to get the most showy plant. You know, the best grown, best bloomed. I see Matthias with his hands up.
He has a computer in his greenhouse. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's his phone, I think. He brings his phone.
I see.
You know, my question is, Jan, I'm trying to figure out with the dendrobiums, when is actually the initiation of the buds? Because I'm also trying to figure out to support the plants with the special fertilizer for, so-called the bloom booster. But,
Yeah.
when exactly the right time to do that? You have an answer for that?
Okay, so for the, I try to, I give a blast of the bloom booster right before dormancy. So November, around there, I'll give a blast of the high phosphorus, and then it'll go through dormancy. And then when the buds start to emerge, when they're fully formed, then I start using the high phosphorus again, mainly to support flower size.
So how long are you using the bloom booster? Because, I've been working with, trying to figure this out with other plants. And this year I did that with my Stanhopias, and I did it at the right time. And now I'm getting tons of spikes. So I'm wondering, was it should be the same thing to get them to really set the flowers high up the cane and not only in the bottom part, which most of them do.
I think it has to do a lot with the dormancy. If it goes through a full dormancy, I think it's the plant's way, Tom, correct me. I think it's a plant's way to survive. So if it has kind of a rough, very severe dormant period, you get a more profuse bloom because the plant's trying to survive, right? It's trying to put out more pollen and put out more.
Last ditch effort to reproduce. You
Yeah.
want to bring them
Yeah.
almost to death, and then boom,
Yeah.
they're going to try and make as much seed as possible.
Yeah, I think that's part of the purpose of the pushing the dormancy. If it has too cushy, like too green and too wet and you get a lot of vegetative growth, your plant's too happy, it's not going to flower.
Okay.
Did that
Well,
answer the question?
I see Larry.
Yeah, Tom, I wanted just to add something to the question about growing them on trees. Now, I don't grow them in trees myself, but I have seen Ken Armour growing stunning looking honohonos on a tree outside of his nursery with long stems covered with flowers and growing outside on a tree. And he's near sea level, so warm temperatures. So I don't know what his secret is, but all I'm saying is that it is possible in Hilo.
I think probably if it's a very lush tree with a lot of leaves and canopy, that often serves as, it can feel dry underneath that. So I've not seen these plants that Ken Armour's grown, but that seems like a possibility. Dana, please.
At the Hilo Community College, if you just wander through the campus, you'll find a couple of trees that don't look like they're big and lush or anything, but they have honohonos that start above my head and are almost touching the ground. Beautiful, beautiful honohonos.
And they bloom? They bloom
Yeah.
in March?
Yes.
Oh, I got to see that for myself.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of midway into the campus, you just have to, and it's near some sort of a, not, just like some sort of a utilitarian part of the campus, not really a classroom area.
Mhm.
And I was just looking for a place to park one day, and oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I had to stop right then and there and get out of the car and take pictures.
Nice. Wow, well, that's good to know that that's possible in
Mhm.
Hilo.
Yeah.
Most of the people I know that have them in trees, have lovely lush plants, very nice leafy plants with lots of keikis on them. But that's been my experience, is that if you water them when they're dormant, instead of getting flowers, you get keikis, which is nice for sharing, but it's not, if our goal is to get beautiful flowers, you might want to think about that. So that's what I see all over Hilo, are are big lush plants with maybe just a few flowers in March, but you know, not the kind of show that Jan is famous for. So, but I would love to see those, Dana. Maybe next March you'll take me. I have another question for you, Jan. Is it possible for the nurseries on Oahu that specialize in honos and all these great varieties? I'm not really familiar with them, and I think many of our members would probably like to order some different kinds of honos from those sources. Any way that you could send us or tell us what the, you know, like the name that, do they have websites, and do they have plant lists that we can peruse? And also I am hopeful to be visiting Oahu in the next month or so. I have some guests from Jamaica that are coming that want to spend a couple days on Oahu, because I think the plants from the nurseries there are going to be more amenable to growing in Jamaica. So I thought I'd go with them, and we'd probably really enjoy going to these nurseries. And will you be our guide?
I don't know. There aren't that many nurseries. You know the whole orchid.
That's good.
Right?
We don't want too many.
H&R is closed. They're, everything is online sales. They're not opening up for people to come into their nursery. Olamana is a good one. That's the family that David Neifert is with. Peter's a little laid up right now, but you still can go and take a look. Another place I gotta check. I gotta check with Calvin to see if honos are what you want. I need to check with Calvin to see if, because he's kind of like he takes his plants out to the garden shops. He doesn't normally have people come into his, so I need to check with that. I can get back with you, Tom, on that.
Okay.
That'd be okay.
Yeah, we'd be really happy, but these visitors from Jamaica are coming on the 20th, and I don't think they're. I think we have like another week after they get here before they want to go to Oahu. So I would just appreciate the information, and again, I don't want to just drop in on any nursery people unannounced. I'd love to set it up in advance, and these are, really, really nice people. So it could be just a really nice thing to do.
July 20th or August 20th?
July. They're coming really soon. So yeah, if you don't mind making some contacts for us, that would be lovely.
Yeah. Let me know what day that you were thinking to do this on. That'll help me to kind of pull things a little bit together. And then, rental cars are kind of tight, so I might be able to help you with taking you guys around, depending on what day it is.
Yeah, I know. Probably going to cost like $200 a day for a car, right?
Or it's not. Well, you might not be able to find a car.
To even get any, right?
Yeah.
Too bad I don't have a Batmobile. We could just, float over or fly over. That would be nice, huh? Save on the airfare. All right. Any other questions?
There was a comment in chat from Mr. Tyra.
Ah, okay.
About sticky boards under mirrors.
Oh, for the birds?
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about that?
Okay.
Hi. Yeah, it removes the primary plumage from the male cardinals, and that really affects their confidence. Effectively, emasculate them and they go away after that.
Oh my gosh.
I know if you took my plumage away down there, that would embarrass me a lot too.
Oh, that's what you meant. Oh.
Yes, so you don't disturb anything else. They like to crap all over my my side views on my truck. And by doing this, just sticking, putting a landing perch with a sticky board, they kind of land on the perch. It effectively removes their tail plumage, and they go away.
That's pretty funny.
Wow, that's ingenious. And kind of like an evil genius.
Evil genius, exactly.
Charles looks like he's having a heart attack over there. He's laughing so hard.
Okay. So, all right. Are there any other questions for Jan? Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, I gotta say, Jan, it was really great. It's one of the best, most thorough presentations I think we've ever had. And I think we're all really grateful to you for your knowledge and your experience. And I'm dying to go back to the Kunia show in March so that I can enjoy this incredible show that you put on every year. Maybe we'll have a group from the Big Island come to participate. What do you say, Jan?
That'll be awesome. The school already wants us back. So
Okay. So you think you're going to have a show next March for sure?
well, they're asking us back. We don't know to what level. It's maybe very different, but they're asking us to come back. Which
That's
is
great.
a good sign. It's a good sign, right?
I think it's time, and hopefully, I think Hawaii is a bit ahead of the curve in terms of getting vaccinations. So I think we should be able, certainly by March, we should be a lot safer. Let's hope so. Let's hope that we are, and that we can get back to meeting in person again soon, and just really enjoying our fellowship and our love of plants with each other. So Jan, big round of applause. Thank you. Probably one of the best things I've ever done to ask you to present to us. So thank you very much. So at this point, since now we know all there is to know about honos, do we want to have like a mini show and tell? Does anyone have any plants that they'd like to show to everyone? Dana, you always have plants and you're shaking your head, or are you just like doing like the Breck commercial hair thing?
No, I'm getting ready to leave on Monday, and I put all my orchids outside. I only have a couple that are blooming, but my Neophanita falcata is just getting ready to bloom, and it's probably going to bloom after I leave. So
oh no,
I know. How long do those blooms last on them? Do you know?
They can be pretty good. I'd say 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, well, maybe it'll still be in bloom when I get back then.
There you go.
So anyway, is Jeff here today? I know Tyra's got something to show us.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, my samurai orchid I bought from our speakers from Santa Barbara bloomed this week. It's on my tree.
Cool.
Really small though.
You had to bring your whole tree back in? Oh, that's a photo. It's hard to bring the tree back in. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh, Kathy's got one.
I see Kathy.
Ooh, a frag.
Actually, it's a path, and it's
Is it?
only the third path I've rebloomed. But you know what? I'm seeing that it's not picking up the very delicate light pink, but it has 3 blooms.
You're gonna have to tell me how to get paths to rebloom. I can never get them to rebloom for me.
Is that de pearl? Is that
It
de
is,
pearl
yes.
that you have?
Yeah, it definitely is. Path de Pearl, Delania, Vincolour, Dark Glow, and Permelian.
Primulinum, yep.
Yeah, Perlime.
So I know that Graham remade that cross with the pinker form of Delenatii. And so I think that's what you have, is that cross.
It is.
Very, very nice.
And I admit this one is one of my few orchids after it bloomed last time, I didn't put it back out in the yard where all my other orchids live, or in the shade house. I left this on top of the bookcase, and it gets morning light through a sheer white curtain. So it bloomed.
Well done.
Done its whole cycle in the house. And then I have this color, probably won't come through, but it's a really, really dark.
Wow.
And this one is one of Norman Fang's from California. This is Pacific Eagle, Nobi's Purple Eagle. And it's I see the colors not really accurate on the screen, but it's very, very fragrant. It smells like sort of more like jasmine than anything. And just by bringing it into the office here for the last hour, the whole office has a light, nice fragrance. That's a really nice purple.
It's a very beautiful flower. Fantastic.
It's a bloomer. It has a bloom shoot, and another bud is starting down further on the spike.
Well done.
And that one lives outside all the time. It hangs in a tree.
Okay. Dana, I saw you sneak away and come back with a plant.
Yeah. What is the orchid genus BCD?
BCD?
Yeah.
You want to show?
It's called Gilded Tower Yellow Star.
Oh, Brasso something. Brasso Catonias? No, it can't be, because those are Cattleyas.
So this is just starting to open.
How about Brassidium?
Yeah.
City?
That's
Oncidium.
I would say so. Definitely got Brassia and definitely got Oncidium with that yellow lip.
So yeah, this is just the first flower opened yesterday, and then just since yesterday, these other 3 popped out. Yeah, it's really, really pretty. So,
beautiful spike.
Yeah, has 4 or 5 more buds to go on it. And
how many of you out there have Encyclia fragrans about ready to pop? I've got one with like 12 spikes on it. I know Dana has one in her backyard that's a massive specimen.
You talking about the red one?
The Encyclia that smells like root beer?
Well, I don't know if it smells like root beer. What color is it?
Well, it smells like, they call it vanilla. If you buy, they have them at Garden Exchange right now, and they're calling them vanilla orchids, but it's not vanilla. It's an Encyclia.
And what color are we talking about?
They're white with red stripes on the lip, non-resuppinant lip.
Oh no, mine are just red.
No, yours is white.
He's upside down.
Upside down.
Okay.
Oh well. All right, never mind.
Okay.
Matthias is doing a crazy snake thing with his hand.
Shut up.
I'm not sure what that's about.
Mine don't really count because obviously I'm a grower, but I have a few plants that I just want to share because they're really, I mean, one in particular has taken my breath away because the thing is when seedlings open, you label them and you grow them with Cattleyas, it takes so long, you know, another year and another year, eventually they make a nice flower. I mean, this one plant I'm going to show you, I have for 6 years from Mr. Siam and from Thailand, and it's a difficult one to bloom. And it only made one flower this year, but man, this flower is amazing. And I just wanted to share that because it's such a great flower. And as it turns out, he made clones from a different plant that he selected, and he named it Golden Godzilla. So anyways, this is the flower. I mean, it's a massive Cattleya, an incredible shape, a really nice bright golden yellow color with this red spot that almost looks like the lip of Golden Zell Lemon Chiffon, kind of the same lip. It's really a massive flower if you look at the plant size. I mean, it's a pretty big pot. It's, I mean, it opened up, it literally took my breath away because I didn't even remember that I had it. And then when it opened, it's like, holy crap, this is amazing. Maybe not so much for you guys, but for me, this was really something. And down the line, similar.
And it goes really well with your t-shirt.
I know you like that. It's all for you, Tom.
Color coordinated.
There's another yellow one for Mr. Siam. The lip is not as beautiful. It's a little watercolory, the lip. If it would be more red, it would be definitely a stunner, but still really nice presentation of the flowers. Also one that is not the easiest to grow, but nice color. Yeah. As it is the end of the Purpurata season, one more big bang and then it's over.
Oh my God.
You can see it. That's my last season. And this one is literally called Big Bang. So that's why I said that.
Well, I can't wait till that plant grows up. It's really going to be something.
Same here. I'm waiting. Every year I'm waiting. So disappointing. All right. That's my 2 cents.
Well, now that we're all like sad because we can't do what Matthias does. I was going to show some plants, but I'm ashamed now, so I can't. Anyone else with that wants to follow Matthias? No.
He's a tough act to follow.
He is indeed. He is indeed. But that's what we love about him. So, okay. Well, I hope that many of you will join us on July 30th and 31st and volunteer at the sale. Tell your friends. Let's have a really great turnout for our wonderful vendors. Matthias is going to be there, and I think he's going to bring that that Purpurata that he just showed, and you know, sell it there for like $15, right, Matthias? No. Matthias, are you doing something weird with your fingers underneath the camera? Oh, well.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm wringing your neck.
Okay. All right. And with ice cold blue hands on top of it. Ugh. Okay. He's juicing me.
And Tom, let's just remind everyone, so whether you volunteer or not, we would love to have you come to the sale on July 30th and 31st.
That's absolutely the truth. So we hope to see you there. I think it's going to be a great event, and you won't be sorry if you come, I promise. So with that, I guess we can adjourn unless there are any more questions or comments that anyone has. Okay, I think we're done. Well, thank you all so much for coming. and we will see you next month. Same time, same channel. Thank you. Aloha.